Welcome to my webinar on Jupiter in Cancer and the Grand Trine. And I'm Pam Carruthers and my website is healingstars.com. Now this Grand Trine is a truly rare event and it comes into exactitude on the 17th of July 2013 and it does stay there for at least 2 days. And what you can see in this chart is this wonderful triangle, and it's in blue. And the blue is a flow. The blue represents the flow of energy between 3 signs which are compatible. And in this case, they're water signs. So Jupiter is now in the sign of Cancer at the top of this chart in the yellow. Scorpio, that's where Saturn is residing at the moment. It's just moved forward at the new moon in July. And then across we have Neptune in its own sign of Pisces. And this is rare because these planets move at different speeds, just like the hands of a clock. You could say, you've got the second hand, the minute hand, and the hour hand. For them all to come together in this formation is rare and quite beautiful and quite magical. And also what's going to happen is that Mars, over here at the top, will also join Jupiter, and that happens around the 20th of July. So as you can see, this is quite an extraordinary, beautiful looking chart. Now these planetary cycles vary. So just to compare how long each planet stays in a sign, well, can I give you some idea of the rarity? So Neptune takes about 14 years to go through a sign. And it moved into Pisces on February the 3rd, 2012. And it stays right up until January 2026. So that's a long time. So it's the planet that is the slowest. It doesn't move very much per year. It's going through 30 degrees, remember. But in moderate speed, we have Saturn. That takes roughly 2.5 years to go through each sign of the zodiac. And it moved into Scorpio last year on October the 5th, 2012, and it will stay there till the end of December, well, beginning of December 2014. It has a little brief return in July and September of 2015. So we've already had at least 6 months of getting to know what Saturn in Scorpio feels like. And feeling is the optimum word because we are talking about water signs. Now, the fastest of these 3 is Jupiter, and it takes roughly a year to go through each sign. So it moved into Cancer June the 26th, 2013, right up until next year in July 2014. It's what we call a social planet because often the people you went to school with will have Jupiter the same sign as you, or perhaps they might have it the sign before or the sign after because it doesn't change sign kind of on a regular date each year. So those are the 3 that are involved. Jupiter is the largest. It's the biggest of all these planets. It's huge. You could put every single planet inside Jupiter and still have acres of space. And it is known as the Great Benefic. So the Grand Trine in water signs, as I said, is very rare. Now, because this is a trine, it's positive. And the positive side of Saturn, its archetype is the elder or old father time. Positive is about form. Saturn is the planet that they say is the stay after school planet, and this is the stay after school. We're living on Earth, and that is exactly what it represents. It's connected to Earth. So it's events that occur in the real world as you see it. So the areas of life in your chart that will have Saturn transiting will need work, they will need effort and adjustment. And it's old father time, so allow time to grow up and for maturity. Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is called exalted, which means it's extremely good. The archetype, one of them is Santa Claus, and Jupiter's the sky god. So it's Zeus, king of the gods. So it comes from a higher perspective and it's orientated towards the future. So Jupiter brings expansion to the area of your chart. It's about wisdom, truth, abundance. However, it does move fast compared to the other two. So carpe diem, seize the day. Don't let opportunities slip by. And there's very much a theme of the Grand Trine. Neptune in its own sign of Pisces. Now the archetype here is the mystic, or god of the ocean, and it dissolves what it touches. Just as the sea, over a great deal of time, can dissolve the cliffs and the earth itself. So the thing to watch out for with this Grand Trine is we can take things for granted. We can be in a place of inaction, get caught in a dream state, opt out, and self-medicate. Now it's important to always look back at cycle. All planets are to do with cycles of time, of being. And Jupiter and Saturn came together, that was the seed time, in June of the year 2000. And that was at 24 degrees of Taurus, which is, of course, Taurus is an earth sign. If you can remember, or do some research, what happened in your life that year? What area, which is the house in astrology, in your chart was it in at that time? This is where your life started going and where you focused your energies. Now, in that cycle, there's been lots of different aspects, forming squares, oppositions, but now we have a trine, we have a flow of energy between these two. And of course, emphasize water signs. So as the little card shows you on the right, the flow is possible, a time of ease, but I'm going to emphasize it throughout the webinar. The danger is to be lulled into a false sense of security. Now Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces. That's what the card represents. You can see the sea, the dream state, the unicorn. It governs horses, by the way, gods of the sea. So Neptune moved into Pisces in February 2012 until January 2026. It will briefly go into Aries between May and September 2025. But we haven't, none of us alive have experienced this before because it's a 165-year cycle. Now Neptune is all about compassion, oneness, and connection to all that is. And this is why Pisces is the same. It's the same sign. It's universal healing is a theme of Pisces, recognizing that we are all connected. And that, of course, is very prevalent now with the internet. We do know what's happening in the other parts of the world to where we live. So it represents higher states of consciousness. Mystical and out-of-body experiences are likely, especially if you have a lot of water signs in your chart, planets and water signs. So some ideas here. Meditation is really useful now. If you've never done it, now is the right time to be doing it, especially through this Grand Trine. Keeping a dream journal, writing down your dreams when you wake up, allowing your dreams to talk to you. They are your subconscious. They can give you ideas. Dreams just before you wake up are to do with the future. The other great idea, if you've never done one, is to create a vision map. And what you do there is you get a very large piece of paper, A3, A2 or A1 even, big size. Put your own photo on it in the middle, and then cut out images from newspapers, magazines, photographs that you have, and put what you want on that map. Healing. Healing is really important. Colour therapy, excellent. Painting mandalas, homeopathy, chanting, any kind of voice work is really, really good, and acting. These are all the things that Neptune loves. Astrology, I would say that I am an astrologer, but things like runes, tarot, are especially valuable at this time to help us attune to the higher vibrations. We can have this dialogue with Neptune. The most important thing about Neptune and all this Grand Trine is to stay grounded, however that might be for you. Also, Chiron, the wounded healer, joined Neptune in early Pisces around February last year. They did gradually separate, but they're still close and still both going through the sign of Pisces. Now, Jupiter. Jupiter can be called your guardian angel. Jupiter protects. So just as the card, you see this person flying, soaring, like the bird itself. It is confidence, self-belief, and good luck. And it is, all things are possible. So Jupiter says, and all planets, it's like, what do they ask of me? What do I seek? What opportunities are available? What doors are opening? It's a great time to reach higher and set new goals, to seek expansion. Jupiter represents growth, knowledge, your highest goals and aspirations. It's expansion through travel, higher education, and the company of wise teachers, gurus. They're Jupiter types. And it is, of course, good fortune and new chances. And in your own birth chart, where you have Jupiter, is where your growth is most free and uninhibited. And Jupiter, basically, even in its negative, isn't a bad planet as such. It is the great benefic. So the gift of Jupiter is the ability to envision, and seize upon new opportunities and potentials for the future. The challenge: can you recognize something better than you have ever known, that's utterly new and positive, that now lies within your grasp, and devise a way to grasp it? But the trap, the temptation to be lulled into laziness and maybe foolishness, while basking in the warm glow created by mere glitz and overconfidence and arrogance. So the lie that we could tell ourselves is, everything will take care of itself. I don't have to do anything. And I do credit Stephen Forrest here for these words from his book, The Changing Sky, which I highly recommend. Now, Saturn is the complete opposite of Jupiter. Saturn, if you look at the card, it's an older person in the card, a man. It's the part of you, it's got castles there, part of you that accepts challenge to gain wisdom. This man, you see, is actually building a wall. That's what he's doing. So Saturn, it's always saying, what does Saturn ask of me? What do I seek to actualize, put into form, make real? Where am I prepared to apply sustained effort? And where am I willing to make sacrifices, maybe in the short term, but benefits long term? Obviously that's, if you have a course of study, you pass exams, Saturn loves exams, but you are making sacrifices of your time. So in positive, it's discipline, hard work, structure, maturity, perfect Saturn word, because we become mature at our Saturn return, which is around the age of 28, 29, 30. And mastery, because when we work at something, we practice something, we can become masters. But it's negative, which is pretty well known, even by non-astrologers, is depression, lethargy, resistance, fear I can put in there as well, and procrastination. Oh, let's put it off, let's do it later. So the idea is to use effort or work to get through those negatives. Recognize your resistance. So just start something, do it for maybe 5 minutes, especially true of writing, which I find always is not the easiest thing for me to get down to. But if you do something for 5 minutes, maybe gardening would be another example, weeding, Just do one thing at a time. And after that 5 minutes, you actually might find you're enjoying yourself. So completion is a lovely thing. Saturn loves things to be completed. Now also, the gift. The gift of Saturn is the ability to see reality clearly and to respond to it effectively and decisively. Challenge would be, can you push aside wishful or fearful thinking and respond to concrete issues with self-discipline, patience, and practical strategies? And if necessary, can you do it alone? Saturn is to do with things like loneliness or being on your own. Now, the trap is the temptation to slip into despair and frustration when reality seems to turn against you. So to be aware, that if we start something, we commit to something, we will be tested. The ego, which is called edging God out, will try hard to stop you from moving forward. And that's where Saturn can really get a hold of you, if you like, and you go, the lie is saying you can't win. That's the lie. Now, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, and I've chosen the Wheel of Fortune from the Tarot, which is Jupiter's card, is asking us, how can I nurture? That's the theme of Cancer. How can I nurture someone or something? It is the Great Mother, Cancer, and it stays there right up until June next year. Now, Cancer is known as a cardinal sign. Cardinal is they're the 4 signs of the seasons of the year: Aries, spring; Cancer, summer; Libra, autumn; and then Capricorn, winter. So they are turning points. Very appropriate with that Wheel of Fortune, because it's all about things turning. Now, Jupiter is all about faith, optimism, positive qualities. So it does expand what it touches, and it can bring good luck. And reminding you, it's a 12-year cycle. So the negative, happy-go-lucky, a bit naive, and you can put on weight if it's going through your first house, because it wants more of everything. More food, etc. But we do have Saturn balancing it until August, like a counterweight, if you like. So it brings that expansive and buoyant energies to the sign of Cancer for a whole year. Now, always with transits, it's important to look back. Now, 12 years isn't that long ago, so if you look back to around July 2001 to August 2002, what was going on in your life then? So what you started then is now enjoying what we call a Jupiter return. Jupiter's back where it was then. So whatever was started can now blossom, expand, or maybe require adjustments so it can grow. And just to remind you, before that, it was back in August 89 to August 1990. So you might see a pattern, depending how old you are, and how good your memory is, of course. Now, it does retrograde, all planets retrograde apart from the Sun and Moon. So it's moving fast, but it gets to 20 degrees by November the 7th, and then it will turn retrograde. I should say, it's a mistake, it's not in Scorpio, it's in Cancer. So, of course, Saturn is in Scorpio. So Saturn, and the card here, the tarot card, is 21, completion. This is from the Osho Zen pack of cards, by the way. So to ask, what has been outgrown? It's a very good question. Now, of course, it entered Scorpio last year, October 5th. It's a fixed sign. So fixed signs give stability. They, of course, are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, all fixed signs. But it's water, it's emotions. And the interesting thing about Saturn going through Scorpio, it does exchange sign with Pluto in Capricorn. It's very positive. They're in actually a very good relationship. So all the turmoil going on in the world, especially around institutions, especially around financial institutions, other people's money is an 8th house, and that's the Scorpio energy. So the transformation can end up being very positive. So psychological, Saturn's all about psychology, delving deep into the unconscious, things that are hidden beneath the surface. And the idea is to be courageously honest. Commitment to let go of things that are no longer serving you, no longer useful. And facing reality. A long, cold, hard look at what is going on. So that's the honesty. But Scorpio is also co-ruled by Mars, the planet of courage. Important to remember that, not just Pluto. The negative, though, but Scorpio, of course, is that nasty little insect that can sting. So Scorpio can frighten us. It's not comfortable, obviously, to be looking courageously, honestly at yourself. It can be very unpleasant. So it's hard to face things that we're not dealing with. So we have a tendency maybe to bury these things. But that is not a good idea now. And Saturn, of course, trines Jupiter. And I've given a 5-degree orb here, from 22nd of June right up until 25th of August. But by sign, those two are in a good relationship right up until next July. Now, just to give you some idea about houses in your birth chart, and they're not nice and even as this diagram shows. Most people's aren't. They have some houses bigger than others. Some might have more than one sign in them, depending on the place you were born, the time of year you were born. But they work anti-clockwise. So I give this idea to clients to think of your birth chart as a play of your life, of course. The actors are the planets. So they move. Planets move, that's what they do. And they have the most importance, of course, in any play. Costumes, though, are like the signs of the zodiac, are like the colours they wear. The houses are the scenes of the play, areas of life's activity. And they're a way of dividing the birth chart into 12 segments. So each house represents an area of your life, the activity in your life. And the opposites are also important. Always, when a planet is going through a sign, it will also be opposite another sign. It will also at times make obviously different connections with other signs and other planets in your chart, your personal chart. And the most important time for any transit in your life is when it actually contacts a natal planet, especially Saturn, because Saturn brings things into reality. Now I'm going to go through Jupiter and Saturn through all the 12 houses for you. Now, the first house, as you can see in the card, is the person looking in a mirror. So it's what people see and the impression that you give. It's your birth, your literal birth, the first house, how you arrived on this earth. So the sign in that first house is very important for you, plus the planet that what we call rules that sign. All planets have a sign that they rule. That's why I'm saying Neptune rules the sign of Pisces, as a for instance. So this is birth, this is new beginnings. So it's your physical body, your self-image, your appearance or persona, also your vitality. The first house is naturally governed by Aries and Mars. So how you dawn on others, because it's also dawn, literally, it's that time of dawn. Jupiter. Now, to have Jupiter moving into your first house really boosts your self-confidence. It's expansion. You will feel expansive, expressive, a sense of heightened optimism, a can-do attitude. The eyes now on the future. Jupiter is a big picture planet, so you're not inclined to sweat the small stuff, the detail. The sky is the limit. So a feeling of being carefree. That is not the same as being careless, by the way. So carefree. It's a gorgeous energy to have. And if you have it naturally, then you're a natural optimist. Saturn. Now Saturn, and I've got this idea from Stephen Forrest, he calls it a mountain to climb. So you know what you need to do. There's some challenge facing you that demands great work of you, but you will grow in maturity and self-respect. Now, this work you might feel exhausted, but profoundly alive. You know that feeling when you've worked hard? You know, I'm thinking of gardening at the moment. It's this time of year. You know, you think, oh, goodness me, but the result is so worth it. But this is also a time of developing yourself as a professional. So this is you if you've got Scorpio rising. But also this might be a time of ending a relationship, which of course involves work, can be very difficult, very tough, like divorce often is. However, you could also commit to a new one. Saturn is the planet of commitment. To bear in mind throughout this webinar is to look also at the houses that Jupiter and Saturn rule in your chart and the natal position of both of these planets. Now the second house, this is a development, all right? These houses develop. So this would be, if you think of yourself as a baby, you've been born, this is now the physical body, you're getting in touch with everything. You see babies sucking their fingers and toes, exploring their physical world. So it's your assets, finances, the things you value. That's why the picture's got money in it. It's governed naturally by Venus. So it's your values, how you value yourself. By valuing yourself, how much money do you receive in exchange for the work you do? It is to do with work as well, income. So self-esteem, self-worth, your possessions, and how, as I say, how you value yourself. Now with Jupiter here, again, this is positive. It's time to develop your talents, being confident about your earning power. You've obviously got Cancer is the sign of your second house. Your natural way of you earning money would be to nurture people, or in the professions such as food. You know, Cancer is, think about everything to do with mother, home, food, hotels, all those kinds of industries. But you could also splurge on yourself at this time. So it's a good time to clear up money problems that you may have from the past. Find better ways to manage your resources. But you could apply for a loan because it's opposite the 8th house, which is other people's money. So good time to ask for a raise. Focus on what makes you feel secure. Now Saturn can be the opposite, of course. You can have a crisis in confidence. You can get dear old self-doubt, all those nagging things that go on in the mind. You know, I don't have what it takes. You could freeze like a rabbit in the headlights. So, can you acquire what is needed to go forward? Do you need a new skill? You know, this is time to address the deficit, address your weaknesses, and get some qualifications to prove to yourself. You know, this is what self-respect after all is. You know, you've earned it. One good important point, Saturn is work, so we've earned it. Jupiter's often we're given it. You know, it's just luck. So Saturn in the end rewards more than Jupiter. Important point. So ask also, have you been disempowered as a child? You know, do you have this belief that I'm unlucky? Time to question those. They're not true. It's been taught someone maybe who had that same feeling about themselves, who in turn was taught by their parent. You know, this is time to break that kind of cycle. And the third house is all about communication. So the card is showing you someone reading, lots of books around. And the card says your potential to learn something about yourself, you're learning something new. And also it's your local neighbourhood, your siblings. It's the third house in your birth chart. So correspondence nowadays, that's all sorts of things, isn't it? It's email, texting, all types of communication, and your voice. So, as I said, neighbours, Jupiter means that, neighbours and relatives can be very helpful to you this time, very supportive. You can express your ideas well, and they're well received because you've got confidence. It's an excellent time for study. Jupiter is higher education. So if you've never done a course such as NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, I highly recommend it. I've done it and it was really, really good for me to do. Now, there might be lots of travel at this time, but short distances. That's kind of local. Nowadays we travel so often in our daily lives, don't we? We get nothing on jumping on planes. But this isn't long. This isn't going off to different countries. This is your neighbourhood or your town, your city or your county or whatever, fairly close. But don't overload it with taking on too much. Jupiter, it says more, so you can get caught in too many activities. Now Saturn here, everything about your voice and self-expression needs a disciplined approach. This is a Mercury-ruled chart, part of your chart. Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury is very fast-moving planet. So Saturn is slow, pauses, slowing down. So how have you been heard in the past? And deal with anything that's maybe damaged you speaking up, your voice. It's a time to claim your voice. And if you take my advice, you join Toastmasters, which I'm a member of Toastmasters. It's really good at helping build confidence in speaking. It's a brilliant organisation, incredibly cheap and very good value. It's also, you meet people from different parts of life. It's mixed, men and women. It's also, Saturn can be lonely, as I said, so writing a book is very well aspected at this time because, of course, if you've ever written at length, you do it on your own, basically. But it'd be well worth it. So think about this. It's all about your voice, communication, and improvement, self-improvement. And the final comment I've written under the card, can you trust the authority of your perceptions? We're taught this in Toastmasters, and it's very important to think into how you perceive your world, which is what about listening, isn't it? Then about how you prepare something, how what am I going to say? What am I going to deliver? So are you listening well enough? Are you then thinking? And then are you speaking? And of course, we all know people who don't think before they speak. So this is a time very much for that, for thinking first. Now the fourth house is the very depths of your birth chart. So it's midnight, the time when some of us are asleep, but some of us are still up. But it's dark, isn't it? So it's the depths of one's being. And it's your home, your mother, your family, your emotional defences, your very roots of your being, the foundations. It's also a natural water house, naturally governed by Cancer. So it's your inner world and then also your ancestors. So having Jupiter move through the fourth house is a really, really beautiful time. A lot of joy, a lot of pleasure can be had in your domestic life. You can have a real sense of security and safety. You could also sell property quite easily at this time. Governs property. Home improvements are favoured. If you want to, especially if you want to expand your home, put on that extension or go up into the roof and just make it bigger. It's also a very good time for a family reunion. Maybe you're the one to bring everyone together Because naturally, if you've got Jupiter going through your 4th in Cancer, you've got Cancer there naturally. So you're a natural family person. Your family also at this time can be especially supportive, be nurturing others. Cancer is about nurturing. And also clearing up any guilt you might have from your childhood. There's a lovely book by Chuck Spezzano. It's called It's Never Too Late to Have a Happy Childhood. Saturn. Now Saturn here, this is a very big turning point because it's, as I said, going right down to the depths of your being. So it is this call for maturation. And what feelings, this is a feeling house, what feelings do you have about getting older? Now something will die, and there might be and there will be sadness and loss, but something else can be born which is more grown up. This is, the natural house when we grow up as children. We do, we're not children forever. We're going to teenager, then adult. So it certainly is also about our mortality. That's its nature. So, and aging. So what poisons have you swallowed in the family? What negative beliefs? And what messages have you received about aging? Was there someone in the family or your extended family who really didn't do a good job of growing older? This is the grumpy old man or grumpy old woman. Not a good role model, I would suggest. So, as I said, this is now the depths of your being. So it is turning and then it's moving up. So, moving up is obviously a real big difference than going down. Now, the 5th house is one of the most glorious parts of our charts, okay? It is all about romance, love affairs, creativity. So that's why the card shows a couple dancing. It's holiday time. And it's where you have fun. So it's romance and create things you're proud of. But creativity can be cooking a lovely meal. It doesn't have to be painting a painting. So it's creativity, gambling, taking risks, play, self-expression, and also children. All good things. So with Jupiter in the 5th house, it is definitely time to enjoy yourself. Your social engagements can increase. You can invest in stocks, take risks because they can pay off. I can add something here only if your chart says that's you can do that. My Jupiter isn't great in my chart, and I'm not really very good at gambling at all, so I do it very rarely. But if this could be a winning streak for you. But your creativity, that's what's being asked of you now. This is to be stimulated and to express yourself playfully, just for the fun of it. It's not serious here. Jupiter is jovial. So be around kids, be around children. See how naturally children can play if they're not on the computer or the iPad. And also things like pregnancy, because Jupiter is the king of the gods, and he was a progenitor in the sign of Cancer. That's family. He did have dalliances with nymphs, but the idea was to create a family of man. So that's why, pregnancy and childbirth are favoured at this time. Now, Saturn in the 5th is a sort of paradox. It's saying, get serious about pleasure. It's going through my 5th house, and I'm sort of really taking this in. Yeah. Learn the discipline of spontaneity. And this is a time to get your work and your pleasure time in balance. Are you working too hard? Too much time spent working and not enough time spent having fun. And that's, of course, recharging your batteries. But also, are you avoiding any pain by working? It's a major distraction, work can be, can't it? So it's about committing now to having a really good time, having a social life. and to ask what brings you joy. Now, this could often be something you did do as a child and enjoyed. I recently discovered painting a mandala. It brought me great joy. I really enjoyed painting with a paintbrush. So, simple thing. It can be a simple thing, or whatever it is for you. Now, the 6th house is at least a misunderstood house of the birth chart, I would say. But it is about work, jobs. It's not career per se. It's also about being of service. It can also be something where we call a role or a duty. It's also to do with skills. It's naturally governed by Virgo, which is manual, Mercury in a manual form, earthy sign, and it is your health. It's a daily thing that we do. We brush our teeth on a daily basis, isn't it, to keep our teeth healthy. So you can see the card shows a woman doing yoga, there's a woman digging her garden here. So work, health, and the daily duty area of your life. It can also be your talents as well, by the way, skills and talents. Now, Jupiter here in Cancer, you can handle the details required to do a good job, and you will get noticed for your skills. So there's also a sense of joy in being in service to others. You get on really well, with friends, especially at work. And you can, if you're an employer, you could at this time hire very good workers. However, you could put on weight, not to say you will, but you could, because it is also digestion, Virgo, so it is, like eating too much. It's a lovely time to get a pet, really auspicious. And as I'm saying, making new friends at work, any people you meet on a daily level. Saturn in Scorpio in the 6th, so people around you will look to you to meet their needs. So you may be called to actively support people in a practical way. However, this is a very important one. Are you doing something out of a sense of duty, but it's not authentic? So the question to ask yourself here, are you in sacrifice? So the idea is to be of service wholeheartedly, rather than in a role. And this is the Scorpio being honest. So being authentic is being asked of you now. Now, that is not to say you don't do anything to help other people. It's the way you're doing it. What are you doing it for? If you're doing it to prove that you're a good person, then fine enough, it doesn't work. You won't get the reward. That's what the role is. But if you really genuinely want to do something to help others, then it will come back to you. You will get rewarded. Important, really important. Now, the 7th house is our house of relationship. So to have Jupiter and Saturn moving through the 7th house, this is the area of your life, long-term significant partners, and it's romantic partners, business partners, family. So marriage, clients, business partners, clients, but it's also known as the house of open enemies. You can see that, of course, if, a tennis match, you've just been on a tennis match, that's your enemy and you can see them. They're opposite you. But, they spur you on to do better. That's the idea. Any planet in the 7th house is what you need to embrace for yourself rather than project it out. Jupiter in the 7th benefits, definitely you'll benefit through any kind of partnership and or marriage. You can also negotiate successfully at this time. Jupiter is to do with the law, so you can win legal battles. Your finances can improve via partners. Good people will come towards you. See, Jupiter brings good people towards you. Your relationships will be easygoing. You can get very good publicity at this time. But Jupiter is also to do with freedom, so you might have a strong need for freedom during this year. So if you're honest in your relationships, and warm, you can really win. Jupiter can bring you lots of good relationships. Saturn in the 7th traditionally is not good news, and it's often a time of solitude. However, it does not have to mean the end of things. It can mean a commitment to a relationship to take a new step, a step up to a whole new level. So if you're stuck, if you're in a rut, and you're in any relationship, stagnant, you want to break up that routine. So you think of new ways to reinvigorate and commit to the relationship. Now, if it's not true, that relationship, commitment can also bring, if it's done in honesty, what is the truth of a relationship, can bring the end of a relationship, but that will benefit both parties. It could be that you just got caught in a whole routine and you can't work together, you can't move forward. So if you have any of these scripts, it's impossible to find a partner. If you've got one of these running, or if you're running some sort of victim story here. Now, what that's really about on a psychological level, and Scorpio is psychological, this is your fear maybe of intimacy that's reflected out in your external world. If you've got Scorpio in the 7th house, you need an intense relationship. It's part of your very being. So you need to attract towards you Scorpio types. Very, very important, 7th house. Whatever sign is there, that's what you're looking for. That's your opposite. That's what you will find attractive. The 8th house, Scorpio's natural house. So this is transformation. This is everything to do with the occult. It's also about sex, other people's money. I mentioned it before. It's also inheritance. It is to do with death and psychotherapy. So Jupiter. Now this is where joint finances can definitely improve, and inheritances are likely. That's the windfall aspect of Jupiter. But it's a very good time to work on financial planning, new strategies. You can also, very good time, because Jupiter is higher education, for any in-depth study to do with psychology or metaphysics or any astrology, and anything that requires a lot of research is favoured. Another aspect of Scorpio, going deep, that's about research. And good time to purge any emotional junk that you have. Saturn. Now there's a hunger for a raw and deeper kind of love, and this is what you'd have if you've got Scorpio in your 8th house anyhow. So Saturn is going, now's the time to have courage to express any strong, intense feelings that you do have with your partner. Now this could be anger. If you're a woman especially, we're taught not to get angry. Mustn't be angry. But pushing that down is not helpful. Scorpio needs to act courageously. So honesty will lead to a much deeper sense of intimacy. We share, don't we? We share with our partner all the good things about ourselves. We go on dates, so to speak, for a long time. But this is a time to really share wounds in an adult way. In a way it says, actually, what's going on in this relationship is something to do with my past. It's not to do with you. And ask for their help. There also is the possibility to be in the presence of death. This is a house of transformation, all right? It's not death, it's not to go, oh, I got Saturn going through it, I'm going to die. No. Not true. But you might be around death at this time. And you might be the very person who's there to hold someone's hand through, those dark times. Now, the 9th house is Jupiter's natural house, and it's a beautiful house. It's a house of Dharma. It's a fiery house naturally, governed by Sagittarius. So broadening. You see the picture has the the Buddha on it, broadening your horizons, either spiritually, academically, or on a long journey. That's what the card is saying. So it is travel, and we're talking long distance now. It is religion. It is our beliefs, higher education, the law, and philosophy. So yes, it's Jupiter's natural house, natural area. This is a really gorgeous time to have Jupiter going through your 9th house in the sign of Cancer, because opportunities to travel abroad, especially for a higher purpose, not just a holiday. Nothing wrong with holidays, okay? But here we're looking for something more. We want to expand your horizons. We want to meet people with diverse backgrounds, different cultures that open you up to new ways of seeing the world. That's what Jupiter wants. Saturn, going through your 9th, now's the time to really question your belief systems. Have you outgrown them? It's time for your faith to mature. Are you doing anything? Is your religion, is it fear-based? I mean, there are religions that are fear-based. But is it something you've just grown up with? You've just done it because that's what your family did? Is it true for you at this time? A time to revision your view of the world. A time to expand your consciousness. Higher education is very strongly favoured now, especially anything long-term, like a university course, Open University, studying for a degree. Saturn takes time, 2.5 years. Okay, so think about that. And travel now for you, similar to Jupiter, very similar. It's a healing journey. But it could be something involving a challenge. Now that could be an example, if you go trekking in the Himalayas, depending on your age, you might go back to a place that was painful for you. If you, for instance, if you were a soldier, you'd go back to a place where you fought in a war, or your family might have been. If you're born in the UK, I'm thinking of you'd go to visit the war graves, as for instance, where maybe your grandfather died. But these are healing journeys. So, but also a time to face any scorpionic wounds. Anything you push down, it's unconscious, is Scorpio's nature. So it's a very, very, very positive time to be doing that serious work on yourself. Now the 10th house, this is Saturn's natural house. This is right at the top of your chart, the pinnacle. So achievements, status in the world. That's why the man on the moon is in that picture on the right. Wow, what an achievement that was. So it is your career, your vocation. It's your 10th house. It's also your father. It's success. This is achievement time. Status, how people see you professionally, is the 10th house, naturally. So your expression of your profession. Jupiter there, fantastic. This is a time you can really get recognized by, public. Professional success. Your career can advance at this time. You might even win an award. Marriage also comes under the context of a change of status. Change your name, actually, depending on who you are, man or woman. But you come into the limelight. And authority figures, i.e. bosses, see you favourably. So it is not the time to be a shrinking violet. This is your time in the sun. It's a fantastic time. Saturn is also a major transit. 14 years ago, Saturn was in your 4th house. It's now reached the top. So it's a peak time in your life. Everything to do with your mission, your vocation. Saturn likes being of service. So volunteer work will increase your reputation. That's stepping up in your community, being of service to others. And then that can be, I've written that, you might take on a responsibility of, say, a chairman of a committee, That could be with children, for instance, at your school. But any place where you say, yeah, okay, I'll be the leader here. So it's a time to ask yourself, what are you doing in the world? Some hard questions. How much effort are you prepared to put in? How much time? It's another question. Time is all Saturn. Now this could be, if you're in a career, that you go, actually, I've reached a glass ceiling, been there, done it, I can do this in my sleep. This could also be a time when you change career. You decide, no, it's no longer working for me. So you've got to the top of the mountain. Now it might be time to go down and climb another mountain. The 11th house of your chart. Now the 11th, friends, people you choose to be with, your group, your tribe, another expression that's been used a lot nowadays. It's also your hopes and your dreams. It's naturally nowadays governed by Uranus, but it used to be also governed by Saturn. So you can see the picture of the girl. She's looking out at the star. So it's where the cosmos grants wishes and luck, friends and social occasions. It's opposite the 5th house. It's got a lot to do with the 5th house, which is all about pleasure. So here, Jupiter in the 11th, very well, very auspicious, because you can rely on friends for support. You can increase your circle of friends. Long-term goals can be achieved at this time. Other people will value your advice. You'll be seen as the guru, the teacher, and you can become active in your community. The teacher. Share a common cause with people. Now your income from business can also increase. This is the 2nd house from the 10th house, which astrology speak means income from career. Your social agenda, though, may become too full. So be aware of not signing up for every single group or, protest movement that catches your eye. Saturn is saying, this is time to set your priorities. This is time to realise that not every dream can be fulfilled. So really ask, what's most important to you now? And are your goals realistic? Man on the moon is okay for a few of us, but not for all of us, isn't it? So let go of dreams that you might have set when you were young. We set lots and lots of dreams. So, it doesn't mean not every dream comes true, but just say, that might not happen, but this one can. So ask, what brings you the most peace and the most fulfillment to you now? And Saturn is all about growing up. Standing on your own 2 feet, like that. It governs the backbone in the body, by the way. So our 12th house. Now this is the most interior feeling part of the chart, the most hidden part of anybody's birth chart. I call it the womb, pre-birth. It's behind the scenes. So, you can see in this painting, this image is very much of a spiritual, of 2 people. So it's the area of your life that's overwhelming, can feel overwhelming. And you can yield, but you need to yield, surrender to a greater cause or power, higher than yourself. Hidden strengths and weaknesses can be the 12th house. It can be a place of suffering. It governs places like hospitals, for instance. It's very much a place of withdrawal to your inner world and a connection to the divine. Behind the scenes. Now that's an interesting concept, because behind the scenes, a lot of politicians, a lot of leaders have the sun in the 12th house, because a lot of the work they do is actually done behind the scenes. We don't see it, do we? Also, this house traditionally is governed by Jupiter. It's Pisces, this house. So Jupiter likes the 12th house. It's happy there. Certain planets like moving through the 12th Venus is another one, by the way. So it's a time to become more compassionate, empathic, feel what other people are feeling, very sensitive. Jupiter offers spiritual protection. This is your guardian angel helping you through this most interior part of your chart. A time you can easily contact and connect with your subconscious mind and confront your fears. You are protected. Any kind of charity work, volunteering work can give you great pleasure. So helping other people will really help you. Jupiter is also a planet to do with purpose. I haven't mentioned that until now. But now we are talking about helping others, moving beyond oneself. Your dream world at this time may become very rich, especially if you are naturally tuned in, which you would be because Cancer will be in your 12th house. So you naturally, really listen to those dreams of yours. So meditation and going on retreats are favoured. Pilgrimages. See, that's a spiritual journey, and that's very favoured while Jupiter moves through your 12th house for that year. Now Saturn, going through your 12th, the 12th is traditionally called the House of Troubles. Oh dear, oh dear. All right, but it's completion. It's a completion time here. It's the end of a cycle. So responsibilities, which is another key word for Saturn, can be finishing now. Such as, for instance, the kids leaving home. And of course, that's a big thing to be happening for anybody, any parent. Old routines might break up. So this is a time of spiritual awakening. And that solitude that Saturn offers can also bring the great wisdom that Saturn promises. So your relationship to the divine now needs to mature. So that's for you, now it's a time to contemplate these two planets which are more personal to you than Neptune. So Neptune gives you the undercurrent, if you like. It's the softening, it's the spiritual, it's your vision as well. And Neptune is that creative vision. That's why I mentioned music, painting, all these things are Neptunian. Obviously, the sea itself and water is Neptune. But for us all, this month, July, with Jupiter coming in, Jupiter brings that protection. It's the planet that absorbs all the asteroids that might hit Earth. Think of that. Wow. Without Jupiter, we wouldn't be here, I would suggest. And Saturn brings the ability to manifest. Now, it's important to know that you don't have to manifest your plan, your vision this month. Oh, no, not at all. This Saturn, remember, takes time. It's only just moved direct. So things that have been gestating, especially since last October, November, that's when Saturn made its first trine to Neptune. So allowing your feelings to speak to you. This is not to do with your head. It's not to do with logic. It's emotions. These are 3 emotional signs. And the idea, the concepts, is in the quiet moments that the gods can speak. Rest is important. Saturn often says, you've got to work harder. Now we're being asked to relax. That's why daily meditation, and I did do some today, is excellent at tuning in to this vibration, allowing it to give you the direction that is coming from your heart and not your head, and the divine. And a good friend of mine once said, what would love want me to do now? And sometimes loving means being very honest with someone. That's the courage that's being asked of Scorpio. So the idea I'd like to introduce to you now is to integrate the two planets, Jupiter and Saturn, because these are the two opposites. And any kind of visualization or guided meditation of any sort is tuning into Neptune. You might like to paint or draw these two planets. You might like to do some more research on them. There's lots of information out on the internet. But what I'm asking you now to do is very simple, and you can do it at any time that you have any dilemma of two opposites. So the theme of Jupiter in Cancer is expansion. It is nurturing. It's something big. For you, think about what colour that might be. Saturn is a place where you have to work. You have to put effort. You have to put time. You need to commit in order for it to manifest. So you might spend time on your own. So think of a colour that would represent for you. And now I'd like you to close your eyes. I'd like you to put your feet on the floor, to uncross your arms, and hold out your hands. So your palms are facing upward. So now I'd like you to put Jupiter into one hand. And with that colour in your mind, I'd like you to first of all get a sense of Jupiter's energy. So ask in your life, what would you like to expand? This is your faith and your optimism and your hope for the future. You might have an image come to your mind. You might have a sound that Jupiter wants to make for you. It may be associated with a smell. And notice how heavy or light it is in your hand. So now move across to your other hand. And this is where Saturn lies. So again, remember the colour for Saturn. And I have to suggest to you, Saturn is heavy. So this will be heavier than Jupiter, because this is about responsibility, duty, being of service, taking time, and commitment. So again, it may have a sound it wants to make for you. There may be a smell associated with it. Does it have an image? So now raise your hands so your palms are facing each other, shoulder width apart in front of you. Tune in to the two energies. Remember the colours. And now allow your hands to come together slowly. Focusing all the time on these two energies. At one point you'll feel the chakras in your hands kind of pulling your hands together. When your palms are together, interlock your fingers and now allow the combined energies to come for you as a colour and an image. And I now invite you to place these combined images on a part of your body that needs support, that needs confidence and commitment to move forward in a whole new direction in your life and to make your dreams come true. So thank you for watching and listening to this webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it, and of course it does go along with the report that you've bought, which gives you lots of information. I very much enjoyed sharing it with you, and if you're not already, I hope you're subscribing to my newsletter, which is www.healingstars.com. I'm Pam Carruthers saying